Hello, all you lovely people. If you're watching this video, then I am dead. Okay, I'm not actually dead, but if we were living in a dystopian society, I probably would be. Honestly, I have no survival instincts at all. But, while I have your attention, let's get down to business. We're gonna talk about basic theories in the philosophy of law. Yay! Woo! And if that sounds too dry, we're also going to see what the philosophy of law has to say about popular dystopian societies. And I don't know about you, but that just tickles my inner geek. The theories we will look at are natural law theory, legal positivism, and legal interpretivism. But what societies will we look at? Before I tell you, I'm gonna let you know my criteria for choosing the worlds. First, all works of fiction in any medium are fair game. The main target audience should be teens and young adults. The first installment must be no older than 10 years at the time of this video. The work needed to have made a splash when it came out and have something to show for it. And most importantly, the dystopian society must be dystopian because of the legal system in place. You will see no zombie apocalypses or lone survival stories in my list. With those criteria in mind, here are the ones I picked. First, we'll use Suzanne Collins' 2008 international bestseller that got a widely successful movie franchise, The Hunger Games. We'll use this to talk about natural law theory. Next, we'll talk about Veronica Roth's 2011 international bestseller that got a slightly less successful movie franchise, Divergent. We'll use this one to talk about legal positivism. And lastly, we'll look at Gen Urobuchi's massively successful 2012 anime, Psychopaths, to talk about legal interpretivism. Well, let's get started! First up, what is natural law theory? To put it super simply, natural law theory is the idea that the law and morals cannot be separated. Now, a big name in natural law theory is this dead dude who lived a long time ago, St. Thomas Aquinas. Aquinas theorized that there were a bunch of different types of laws. You had the divine law, or God's will, the natural law, or human nature, where humans are inherently good, the divine law, essentially the laws in the Bible, and then you had human law, which is what I'm going to focus on. Human law is what it sounds like. Laws made by humans. Their purpose is to order human life. They may not be as perfect as their higher-ups, but you as a citizen still have a legal obligation to follow them, unless the laws are unjust. If the law is unjust, Aquinas says that not only do you have a moral obligation, but a legal obligation as well to not follow it. This is because Aquinas says that the law should be for the common good. The common good can be brought about by punishing evildoers as well. Aquinas condoned super harsh punishments, think like drawn and quartered, public hangings, etc., if it would act as a deterrent against future evils, even if the crime was not very severe. So what the heck does this have to do with the Hunger Games? Well, what do we know about this world? To start, there's this girl that likes to shoot things with arrows, and she's also on fire, right? Right. But that's not what's important. This world, Panem, is divided into 12 districts. These are ruled absolutely by the capital, helmed by President Snow. Every year, the capital forces 2 teenagers from each district to fight to the death for the entertainment of the capital citizens. Sucks, right? Well, it gets even suckier. Each district is in charge of a certain resource, like coal or fishing, the bulk of which are sent to the capital. So the capital rolls in wealth, but most of the districts live in squalid poverty. On top of that, the law enforcement is incredibly strict. Any infraction, no matter how small, will be harshly and publicly dealt with. We are talking public lashings, executions, and more. But the peacekeepers are totally on the citizens' side, right? You totally want to live there, right? Aquinas would have a few things to say about this world. First of all, these laws are very much not for the common good. The citizens in the districts far outnumber those rich capital jerks, but the laws seem to only benefit those rich capital jerks. Moreover, no matter your moral position, I think it is safe to say that laws forcing a bunch of kids to kill each other for entertainment year after year is pretty unjust. meaning that, according to Aquinas, the citizens may have a moral and legal obligation to not obey those laws. Same deal with the laws that force all of the resources to be sent to the capital. This is not to say that Aquinas thinks that the structure of the law is inherently bad. Sure, we tend to think that authoritarian governments and dictatorships are bad, but Snow's regime creates human law to order the society. Every citizen knows the laws, they have been publicly announced, something that Aquinas likes. As I mentioned earlier, Aquinas was even okay with harsh corporal punishments. He thought that they were good deterrents from future evil. Aquinas would be totally cool with the legal structure of this society. The problem lies with how the structure is being used. And I don't know about you, but to me that feels like it would be a reasonable assessment of the world of Panem. Okay, so if natural law theory had an opposite, that would be legal positivism. Legal positivism is the theory that the law and morality should be kept separate. You can have just and unjust laws, but those judgments are made later. Essentially, the law is the law is the law is the law. Now, the really big name in legal positivism is this dude called H.L.A. Hart. Hart described laws as social rules, an idea he took from sociology. At the heart of Hart's description, you have primary rules and secondary rules. The primary rules tell you what you can and cannot do. The secondary rules tell us how to modify and work with the primary rules. Now, some people tend to accept rules and some do not. This all depends on whether you take an internal or an external point of view of the law. A legal system that actually works, according to Hart, needs the majority of the people to accept the laws and take an internal point of view. People have a legal obligation to follow the law because of the huge social pressure put on them by everyone else. It may feel like coercion, the threat of being sent to jail and dying a social death, but you will be held responsible for your choice to break the rules because ultimately you chose to go against the social construct that you live in. Speaking of social constructs, let's talk about the one in Divergent. I know, that was a horrible segue. Don't judge me! What do we know about this world? Well, even though it's presented as a peaceful utopia after an apocalyptic war, I know that I would not want to live there. This post-apocalyptic Chicago is divided into 5 factions, each with a dominant personality trait. You have Abnegation the Selfless, Dauntless the Courageous, Amity the Kind, Erudite the Intelligent, and Candor the Truthful. Each faction is in charge of certain occupations and societal roles. For example, Abnegation is in charge of legislative affairs because they will unselfishly write laws for the benefit of everyone, and Candor is in charge of roles such as lawyers and judges because they will search for only the truth. At the age of 16, each person has to participate in the choosing ceremony, where they will choose which faction they would like to spend the rest of their lives in. They are asking hormonal teenagers to pick a single personality trait to live the rest of their lives by. Jeez! I'm in university and I still don't know what type of path I want to follow. To make this decision harder, everyone has to get initiated into their faction, and if they fail, they become factionless. This means that they have to live in poverty for the rest of their lives, doing menial work in exchange for clothing and food. In fear of war and conflict, these people strictly adhere to the rules and factions. Moreover, society systematically oppresses everyone that does not conform. Despite this oppression, most people seem to be content with their place in life and play to the social construct that is this post-apocalyptic Chicago. Okay, so simply put, this world is okay by Hart's legal positivism. That's all you need to know. I'm done, bye. Fine, I suppose I can elaborate a little bit. There are rules that dictate how this world of Divergent functions as a society. We pretty much just see primary rules like, you have to choose a faction, and if you fail faction initiation, you must spend the rest of your life factionless. But the secondary rules are there below the surface. Moreover, all of these rules act as a way for those who follow the rules to exert social pressure on those who don't. Just look at how the factionless are treated. This is because almost everyone in this society has internalized the rules and wouldn't think to not follow them. This is best represented in the mantra that every faction adheres to, faction before blood. They all hold this close to their hearts. Conforming to the rules trumps even family. And if you break the rules, you are held accountable for your actions. It's another way you can become factionless. You have the legal obligation that Hart describes. At the end of the day, the law is the law is the law is the law. Honestly, I can't find any argument here as far as legal positivism goes. Natural law, on the other hand, might have had more of a problem. Moving on. Our next theory is legal interpretivism. Now, our main man this time is Ronald Dworkin. He describes law as integrity. This is just a fancy way of saying that the law cannot be separated from morality as easily as Hart may think. Before I talk about our main man, though, we gotta look back at Hart for a little bit. Hart said that judges must make rulings and judicial decisions based on logic. The most they can interpret the law is through dictionary definitions of the words used. But Dworkin is all like, yeah, no, because that's not how actual judges work. Dworkin focuses his theory on how judges actually make decisions and interpret the law. They look at not only the meaning of the words, but also the historical context and the intent of the lawmakers. The point of this is for the judges to understand the purpose of the law and understand it in its best light. This is what Dworkin calls constructive interpretation. In constructive interpretation, not only do judges have to look at the law in its best light, they have to make their decision fit with past decisions in order to maintain a sense of consistency. On top of that, they need to justify their decision based on the best standards of political morality. See that, Hart? The law and morality, although not as extreme as Aquinas. In loose terms, legal interpretivism is a middle ground for natural law theory and legal positivism. Now, my last two analyses were fairly straightforward, but using legal interpretivism to talk about psychopaths, well, that's going to be a little more difficult. To start off, how is this world set up? Well, this futuristic Japan is presented as a beautiful utopia. No stress, no fear, no problem, right? Japan was able to accomplish this through the introduction of the Sybil system. So, Sybil monitors everyone's brain activity at all times by being connected to essentially all forms of electronics and just doing scans. Through these brain scans, Sybil assigns each person a number, their psychopaths. A person's psychopath number is based on their mental and emotional state, and can change based on those factors. The more agitated or unstable you are, the higher your psychopaths. When your psychopath gets too high, you are labeled as a potential threat to the peace of society, and the police are called in to take you into custody or eliminate you. The police have weapons that are connected to the Sybil system, and they will deliver increasingly lethal shots the higher the target's psychopaths. Also, fun fact, if you are born with a naturally high psychopath, you will be incarcerated for life because you're labeled as a latent criminal, even if you're a kid. Sometimes these latent criminals will be called to work for the police force as hired muscle, but they are treated as less than human, even if they haven't done anything. But they might, and that's the point. Essentially, Sybil is the judge, jury, and executioner. Heck, Sybil even controls who gets to work in what sector of society based on that person's psychopaths. This isn't even a democracy because Sybil decides who can become a politician. Despite the restrictions on freedom that Sybil imposes, everyone seems to exalt it for bringing around a completely peaceful, stress-free world. So yeah, the potential harm a criminal might cause to the mental states of those around them outweighs their life in this society. Yikes. So, if the Sybil system is the judge and jury, can Dworkin's idea of constructive interpretation hold up? My short answer is no. My long answer is filled with a lot more uncertainty. Sybil is an artificial intelligence that can reason and think things through, but it is virtually the sole legal authority. There are laws in place that were initially created by humans that handed this power over to the Sybil system. But again, artificial intelligence, sole legal authority. Dworkin's theory is based on how judges read and interpret the law. It is not based entirely on logic. But because Sybil is still a machine, it has been programmed to reason its decisions logically through a series of programs and algorithms. True, we learn that Sybil is capable of rational thought and dialogue with the people it serves, but that doesn't change the second problem. Dworkin's theory recognizes that different people read laws differently, and arguments that ensue can help set new standards and interpretations in the law. But here, Sybil is the only one making the decisions, so the laws cannot evolve. So yeah, I'm gonna say that the constructive interpretation falls apart when faced with a world like the one in Psychopaths. But that's my interpretation. What's yours? So, I've done all this talking about theories and the philosophy of law. So what? Well, I hope that my analyses of fictional worlds can help you figure out how to turn a critical eye to the one you're currently living in. How are the judicial rulings going? Do you see judges that lean toward one theory of law versus the others? And if that's all too grim, why don't you try this instead? Build your own dystopia. Use or abuse the theories of law that I talked about in this video and make your own society that you would never want to live in. I made one following some of Aquinas' theories to a T. It's filled with Good Samaritan laws, lots of surveillance and harsh public punishments, and it's ruled by this crazy, scary monarchy. So what does yours look like? Leave a description in the comment section below. Here are some more resources if you want more in-depth explanations of the theories I talked about. If you came here for the dystopia, here are some of my personal book recommendations. And here are some movies and TV series for your viewing pleasure. Thanks for watching! Bye!